Anybody mean that? Anybody mean that? Like I won't change. Tell them I change myself. We gotta have change. So tell them to take you up.
Welcome on in. You are watching the Burning Power Show, and I am Dr. Sunny Alonzo Dotson, and it has been quite a while, but I have come to you on this televised program tonight because I have a couple of topics to touch base on, a couple of things to speak with you in regards to. As a matter of fact, let me turn this down. Completely down. If you're just tuning in and you've never watched this show before, once again, this is the Burning Power Show, where you are therefore required to love yourself. And I am Dr. Sunny Alonzo Dotson, and it's been quite a while. I would say possibly late summer when I televised my last program. As I state on most of my programs, the work that I do and the entire encompass of my entire life is centered around the work that I do for God and for God alone. As many of you know, my literary works are just that. If you have never read any of my literary works or encountered my literary works on any type of level, then I would have to explain to you the fact that all of my literary work pertains to the pursuit and the acknowledgement of the atonement and the prophetic encounters that I have faced during the assignments that God has given me. It is, therefore, the legacy of my life. It is the legacy that I will be leaving in the event that I would take my last breath. I am certain that the full makeup of who I am and the journey of my entire life and everything that God would have gone through the processing of having me to go through, which would thus be the granting or the loaning of God's time in me to be able to do thus works, saith the Lord, for his divine omnipotence and for the glory thereof. It is all that I am. Every work that I do is housed in the allotment of truth that I was able to find while seeking God and allowing myself to give account to those same truths. And so, God sent me on an assignment, or actually let me take it back further. End of summer, to get some commentary on what's been going on. End of summer, I finished my last literary work, or I should say the literary work that I finished prior to my latest book, and that is Soon I Wither, Weeping in the Grass of Old. And that literary work is the account of me meeting God in the faces of the deep at the drawing board of existence so that I could sacrifice my life to God in the spirit realm, which means that I died in the spirit for the relinquishment of my life to God. And after that experience, I don't know if I told you guys before, but I went into and entered into a portal of darkness, and God spoke to me regarding these matters because I couldn't find out after the sacrifice why I had been going through this area of darkness. And it occurred to me that God sent me on the next assignment, and it was the consideration of the yearn and the desire of my heart, coupled with the vanity that I was continuing to hold inside my soul, which was an area, and this is detrimental to the survival of God's people. And God showed me that this is my mission while I'm here. Because after I relinquished my life over, I was still holding on to the vanity of my heart, which allowed me to continue to be facing what would be the severity of pain that I had never seen before or witnessed before, or had ever dreamed I would experience in the spirit. Further commentary: out of everything that would presumably be what someone would desire, being multi-talented, as you all may know if you do know me, the main area that was housed in the vanity of my heart was the yearn and the desire to have a mate and to be in love with someone and have them be in love with me. And so, because of the fact that I would not relinquish the desires of my earth realm heart, God would have it that he would send me on the assignment so that I could experience the self-deterioration that I must face in order to relinquish the vanity of the yearning desire of my earth realm heart. And so, we have to be very careful as we're experiencing ourselves and our lives while we're existing on the earth realm. Because we may find that while in the pursuit of obtaining what we desire and what we long for, we may have an opportunity to marinate in the womb of Satan and find ourselves feeble and find ourselves in the conception of a dead thing. And what are we doing when we're finding ourselves in the conception of a dead thing? We are birthing out the stillborn of our own life. And so God would have it that I would be sitting here with you tonight to speak to the accounts of my truths. As I said, I'm not going to be here with you tonight forever. But I want to touch base on an area of our spirit that God led me to. First, I would like to say that, as you can see on the screen there, I am showcasing my latest work here. And it is my latest book that I published. Oh, actually, I'll use this one. And the title of that book is called Traversing Through the Subsisting Dimension of the Heart, Entering the Gates of Your Resolute Soul After the Pain Journey. Prior to me authoring Soon I Wither, Weeping in the Grass of Old, I was in the process of doing an assignment that God had given me, which was coupled with the areas of the heart, and dealing with the areas or the dimensions of the heart as it relates to when we obtain the heart that God has to give us. And this occurred after the authoring of excerpts from Exclaims of Sorrow for the relinquishment of spiritual pain. And that was the 30-day devotional that I wrote just for that. And God started speaking to me about the dimensions of the heart and what do we do with ourselves as it pertains to operating in the heart that God has to give us. And so God started speaking to me about what do we have left. And this is a deep subject that I'm touching base on, because when you have been operating on the emptiness of a heart that's dying, and when you've been operating in the wilderness for the majority of your life, hiding behind pseudo-happiness and hiding behind what you thought was the life you built, and then discovering the life that you built is shattering one building at a time. And now you found yourself operating solely on the emptiness and the loneliness of your soul. And so when God led me to write excerpts from Exclaims of Sorrow, it was for the relinquishment of the pain that I had been holding on to. But then I couldn't figure out why or how I was going to navigate myself through the dimensions of the heart that God had to give me. And so God told me to write this book, which would be a series that I'm going to be writing, which would be my second series. My first series is the Wisdom of the First Pure series, the journey back to the sixth dimension. And this is pertaining to what do you do after you have relinquished the pain and now you're operating on the loss of the pain? And what do you have left to cling on to? Because now the pain's gone, and now you're walking on the grounds of the eggshells that you left on the concreteness of your heart. And so while in the process of working on traversing through the subsisting dimension of the heart, God spake to me for the consideration of allowing me to delve into the sacrifice and I had to sacrifice my life before I could begin on this journey of the dimensions of the heart. Because one truth that we need to get tonight, as I said, I'm not going to keep you long. And I know this is probably my third time saying that. But we have to understand one truth postulate of this show tonight. And that truth is that we have to understand that the separation between the earth realm heart and the heart that God has to give us, and I don't know whether or not you've heard this before, or whether or not you follow ministry, but there is truth to the fact that God has to give us a new heart. And the separation between the two is the fact that the earth realm heart is residing within us. And we have to learn and understand that we will be residing in the heart that God has to give us. And that is a broad spectrum, people. And I really need you to hear what I'm saying. Because if we are to obtain and adhere to that intellect that God is giving us, we would understand, number one, that the reason why the heart of the earth realm is residing within us is because the pursuit of the earth realm heart is the very yearn and the desire of Lucifer that has been imputed into us, which is why we're yearning and continuing to desire for anything that is not God, thus being the desire of God for us. And we won't be able to hear from God and see where we need to go in God until we're willing to recognize that we must reside in the heart that God has to give us. And people, that is definitely a spiritual pill to swallow. And that alone is enough for you to take with you tonight. And I've been dealing with the yearning, the desire of my heart. And that is the heart of the earth realm. And nobody is exempt. And I wanted to make sure that I touch base on that tonight. And talk to you about the books. And I know I haven't been on here in a while. But God sent me on an assignment because anytime that I get on here, I have to be giving you a real truth through the work and the assignment that God would have me go on. Give me 1 second here. What I want to speak to is the area that we end up in. Let me check the time. The area we end up in, and that is spiritual sickness. And we end up in spiritual sickness, which is literally spiritual illness. Because when we're yearning and we're desiring from the place of our hearts that's still yearning and desiring for what Satan offered you and you decided to take, the only thing that we can do is become spiritually ill and spiritually sick. And so what you have is the spiritual technicalities of an imbalance. There is an imbalance in your spirit. And there are several areas as it pertains to solely the yearn and the desire of your heart that is leading you into spiritual sickness. And this is a dangerous area that I need you to understand that you're housing yourself in. When you continue to seek after the yearn and the desire of your heart. And on the last show that I posted, I spoke to you in regards to the premise of this occurring in my life. And what basically happens is you are literally in the process of losing your soul. And I really need you to hear this right now in this hour with me. That the only way that we can get out of this is by recognizing that God has already given us everything that we can obtain. And we have to understand, which I'm in the process of writing my next book, which will be pertaining to the yearn and the desires of my heart, which would be the experience of the assignment that God sent me on. But we have to understand that we are no different. And we are experiencing nothing less than the experience of the fall of Satan while we are here on this earth realm. And people keep believing that, well, Satan this and Satan that, and Satan is responsible. But let me explain something to you. As long as you are deciding to operate from a place and operate from a place of brokenness that you decided to conceive, based upon the fact that you decided to accept an offer from Satan and utilize that experience as a mission to obtain the yearning and desire of your heart. And secondly, choose to dwell in that operation. We must know that we are no different. Because let me bring you back to the premise of the war that has been waged. Because we wanted this. And it's the vanity of our hearts that's keeping us here. Because just like the pursuit of Satan, we're no different. Because every day that we're choosing to believe that we can do anything and we can achieve anything that can mount us up on a title so high, and whatever it is you're doing, you're trying to obtain this degree or that degree, or you trying to obtain $1 million, or you got all these titles and accolades and all of that. And what next? After all that, after we do whatever it is that we've been longing to do, and we reach the next height or the next level of power and position and all of that, what next? I want to ask you. Because as soon as we obtain whatever it is that we so believe that we wanted out of this experience on the earth, we're still going to be searching for the next fix and the next fix. And after you shoot your vein with that heron, or after you have sex with 10 people, or after you are temporarily satisfied whatever it is you're trying to do, we've all been there, right? Whatever it is that it's your drug of choice, whatever it is that you're doing. And we are always going to be in pursuit of the next fix, because nothing is ever going to be good enough. And we're never going to be high up on the title enough. And why? You may be asking. Because it's the vanity that got us here. Because Satan believed that he could do something that could be greater than what God could do. Oh yes, see, that's right where we're at. Because we believe that we can obtain and do anything that's going to somehow give us a sufficiency within that God hasn't already instilled within us. And so, that's where we find ourselves. Let me check the time here. I'm at 33 minutes, which is over where I was trying to go. I don't want to go too far off in the deep end. But I just want to say that that's the next area that God would have me go into. And it's the vanity that we're holding on to, that we have to relinquish. And I want to leave us off on tonight, because what I'm planning to do is tape the next show, and I'll be talking about what God would lead me to talk about. But I want to leave us tonight with reading from the book that I've just published. All of my books, as you may know, if you just tuned in or you've never been on my show before. And just as a reminder that this place that you're in right now is about a real consciousness. And this is where you are required to love yourself back to life. Whoever you are and wherever you are. And that is my mission. Right now, where you're at, you have an opportunity to decide to love yourself. Right now, you have an opportunity to take a look in the mirror of your spirit and begin to speak back to God and hear what God is trying to tell you. Because you got a lot of people and a lot of religions and all of that out there that's requiring you to sign up to a man-made system. But the purpose of me being on here tonight and on every show that I do is to give you the vision of what it really looks like. Because this right here is an opportunity for you to do the real work. Because you deserve what God has already given you. And I need you to understand that we are not in pursuit of what God is trying to give us. Because God is not in the trying works. He's already given us what we need. That was already done before the earth was even formed. Before the stars were named, and before the clouds were named, and before the precipitation began to fall on this earth realm to grow the grass. Before a snowflake was named, and before the ants crawled in the sands of time, God knew you. And somehow we keep beginning to question the validity of who we are. And every time we question the validity of who we are, you need to know that I came to tell you tonight that you're questioning the validity of God. And this is a powerful allotment of truth right now. Because every time you decide to listen to the lies of Lucifer and implant yourself back in the womb of the lies he is allowing you to marinate in for the destruction of your life, and the contempt he's continuing to try to hold you in, and the counteracting of God's truths, he is telling you to be in agreement with him that you are not valid. And if you're not valid, you're questioning the validity of God. And so I want to end this tonight. And I just want to read the introduction from traversing through the subsisting dimensions of the heart, entering the entering the gates of your irresolute soul after the pain journey. And I'm just going to be reading the introduction because I believe it can speak to what I'm speaking to tonight. And I'm going to leave you with that. And also, this is the front of the book, and this is the back of the book here. And I have it displayed for you here tonight. But I just want to read the introduction. And the introduction is as follows. Facing the faces of the deep. Remembering the pain journey. And I just want to allow us to remember where we've been so that we won't forget where we've been. Because if we forget where we've been, then we can't remember where we've been. And if we can't remember where we've been and choose to forget where we've been, then that means that we didn't pass the last prerequisite in our spirit. And we can't get to where we're trying to get to if we're unable to hold ourselves accountable. And so, for we know not of ourselves by what we can see, but we know of ourselves based on the unseen. We know of the unseen by way of navigating through the dimensions of the spirit. It is through my experience I have found that after the pain journey, we may find ourselves lost. Lost just like all of the pieces of the puzzles that were scattered during the fire and the burning power that we faced during the pain journey. After the pain journey, we enter into a place of self-doubt and the deconditioning of our consciousness, the deconditioning of our psyche, and just exactly what we have found ourselves is empty. And so therefore, thus, we must begin the process of regaining our power and the process of rebuilding and restoring our self-sufficiency. We may only do this by way of entering the dimensions of realms we have not walked before. With each dimension that we walk, there is a prerequisite to get there. Just like the pain journey was the prerequisite to the subsisting heart dimension and or the subsisting dimension of the heart. We now know that now we are traveling through the heart labyrinth, dealing with the mental heart mazes that we must face in order to gain any real substantial justification for how we are going to make it through our next journey on the pathways to our next journey and to our promise. So what do we do after the pain journey? Who am I and where do I go from here? How do you begin mending the wounds and putting bandages on the cuts of the heart that have been gathered over the current some years of your life? How do you begin traveling inside the mind so that you can land on a surface inside your heart that would gain entrance into a portal that you know not of, landing in dry places so that you can fill them with water? How do you begin redefining just exactly who it is you are? How do you begin rebuilding and reconditioning your consciousness so that you can push yourself to a level of stability in the heart and stability in the mind that would allow you to reach out into the atmosphere of the subsisting dimension of your heart and grab a hold to the unseen and the unforeseen roots of your existence? You know, it is my truest belief that there are so many areas of consciousness that we have not yet traveled. There are so many journeys that we must face internally that requires so much deep digging for us to be able to articulate to ourselves why we are existing on this earth realm and why we are able to make it through the suffering. And once we have made it through the suffering, why and how do we navigate ourselves? And this was the entire purpose. Because as I stated, after the pain journey, how are we going to navigate ourselves after we are running on nothing, including the pain? And so, once we have made it through the suffering, why and how are we going to navigate ourselves through the mazes of every labyrinth of our story. Because you see, in order for us to gain a revelation from any dimension of the spirit, we must travel inside every dimension of the heart realm. And I'm talking in terms of the heart that God has to give us. Every articulated area of the heart is found in the labyrinth, which brings us to the Eulerian pathway. And people, this is intellectual material that I did create for this book as I speak to the Eulerian pathway, which is the journey through the dimensions of the heart that we face and the dimensions that I have created for us to face in this book. And it just really occurred to me but stopping that topic, but I will be explaining that. But let me continue because I don't want to get off topic. That's why I'm stopping myself. This is why I have created this journey for us to take, because I believe truly that it is due to the Eulerian path that we would be able to travel and navigate ourselves internally to the point where we would gain entrance into portals of the psyche that are dwelling in the dimensions of consciousness that we have not yet faced. Thus, when we have gained entrance and then therefore traveled and traversed through these dimensions, we will have then experienced clarity revealed. We will have then obtained solidarity, stability, and the opportunity to come into the realization of who we really are on the other side of the pseudo-self. That is the very basis of why we are continuing on this journey to the omnipresent self. What we are doing is reconditioning and rebuilding the psyche, the mind, the heart, and the body, the spirit, and every omnipresent part of the omnipresent self, because that is where we are ultimately trying to get to, so that we can eradicate the pseudo-self and begin to step into and own the omnipresence of our irresolute soul that is being resurrected. This is the only true way that we will be able to successfully come into a real and divine knowledge and understanding of why we are going through what we are going through. The knowledge that is necessary to get through what we are going through. The tenacity to go through the journeys and to do the work required that is going to allow us to obtain victory over our destiny, our purpose, and our promise. And I'm going to stop. That's not the conclusion of the introduction, but I'm going to leave us right there for tonight, because I've already been on this broadcast longer than I was expecting to be on here. But I just wanted to touch base on the fact that there is real illness and there is real sickness in our souls when we continue to house the vanity that we see. And you want to know the sad part about it, as we refuse to see it. And that's why God would have it that he would allot me an opportunity to go on assignment. And that's why I want to speak to the areas and the mazes of this book first, as it pertains to the area of the area of spiritual sickness, and the yearn and the desire of your heart, and the vanity that is housed in that experience. And my next literary work will be solely pertaining to my life I know there's a lot of commentary in my books to aid in the intellectual material that I create. But this next book is going to be centered around my life. And there are going to be truths that have not been faced. And it is going to be about the yearn and the desire of my heart and the assignment that God sent me on specifically to deal with the yearn and the desire of my heart. And it is going to give truth that is going to aid in the healing of a people. And I am going to leave you all with that tonight. And I'm going to leave you, as I do with every show, that there is a real power and there is a burning power. Just as it set on the head of Mary and the Holy Ghost that surrounds us. There was a fire that's burning in the heavens. And there was a burning power that's trying to set you on fire. And it's spiritually trying to set you on fire to get to a place that you're strong enough to begin to love yourself. And trying to get you strong enough to face whatever it is that you're not willing to face, that's keeping you stagnant and keeping you in a place where you're not able to believe you're worthy and to believe that you count. And to get you to a place where you're going to stop questioning the validity of who you are. Because when we question the validity of who we are questioning the validity of God. And what are we doing when we're questioning the validity of God? We're choosing to believe the fact that all we have to get by and all we have to live on is the vanity of our hearts. And people, you want to talk about sadness? That's sadness. And it's a very, very hard spiritual pill to swallow. When you talk in terms of the fact that you're only willing to believe in what you can produce. And I really need you to hear this tonight. That we are unable to produce anything. I mean, sure, you can produce a lot. But are you bearing fruit in the spirit because of it? And I want to leave you with that tonight. And I want to challenge you to begin to give yourself back what you chose to deny yourself. Give yourself back what you gave. During the offer and during the exchange of what you decided to take from Satan. And believe that that's going to be enough for you. And it's never going to be enough. And I can tell you from experience that you're going to end up further and further away from the accountability that you must place on your life. And I'm going to get off of here tonight because I'm at 55 minutes. But I'll be seeing you guys soon. I love you with everything that I've got and every hope that I have in God. And I challenge you to begin to depend on the validity of the Spirit. And depend on that same validity to accept the truths about your life. And I'm going to get off of here tonight. And if you're wondering where you can obtain my books, I guess the computer went out. So I won't have any music to go out on. But if you're wondering where to, I guess it didn't go out. Wondering where to obtain my books are sold on Amazon.com. You can also obtain my books on Barnes & Noble, Thrift Books. There's a host of markets out there. All you've got to do is type Dr. Sonny Alonzo Dotson into Google. I'll pop up. But I love you with the love of the Lord. And God bless you. And I'll see you guys on the next show. This has been the Burning Power Show with Dr. Sonny Alonzo Dotson. And I will see you guys on the next show. And I hope that you have a wonderful time celebrating yourself each and every day.
Anybody mean that? Anybody mean that?
Because we won't change. That's right. We won't change. And we're not going to stop until we get it.
So tell them to take you up in a place like I've never been. Anybody want to go? Take me up in a place like I've never been. God lift us high in a place like we've never been.
I'll see you guys next time.